Hello everybody, welcome here to Psychological Journey. This is our second time that we all meet, second appointment. We all meet here together to discuss Jung archetypes, psychology. I would like to mention that Jung archetypes seems a fluffy subject, but it is not. It's a very important subject. We are going to speak about myth, we are going to speak about stories, heroes, and psychology, and marketing as well, because Jungian archetypes are used in marketing. And I'm here with Dr. Niloufar. She's the head of the English department, and she also organizes all the important events that happen here, and she's an expert in American and literature, and she knows a lot about psychology as well.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Hi everyone. I hope you enjoy the meeting today and gain a lot, I think.
Yes, so we'll start. We are going to speak about archetypes. Okay, archetypes, what does it mean? And archetypes are patterns that we have in our mind. Okay, so we're going to speak about myth as well. So I'm going to start here saying that the myth and literature are extremely important. Are extremely important to grow as individuals. So I think it's a very important subject to do in schools. So logically, maths is important, science is important, but we also have to grow emotionally as individuals. We have to learn, okay? And when you read a book, when you hear a story, when you read a myth or somebody tells you a myth, you live more than one life. You live many lives. So you living many lives in this way, you understand how to behave, what happens in the world, you know, how people behave, how can you react. So you experiment in your mind. And we know that playing and experimenting in our mind is very important to grow as individuals, not just for children, for teenagers, but for everybody, because we grow all our life, we develop all our life. So this is the importance of myth. We are going to speak about Jung. Jung was a psychiatrist from Switzerland, and he is the founder of analytic psychology. And he was very interested in myth. He was very interested in stories from all around the world. What he discovered that in all stories, and we have that come from all around the world, he was also an anthropologist, we have the same characters, okay? So imagine that if you look at Star Trek or Star Wars, you have some characters. These characters are in all stories, in all ancient myths. And ancient myths were the first psychology, okay? So these are sort of a pattern that we have in our mind. So we changed, we evolved, no? We evolved, and you know, we have a genetic makeup that make us humans, and evolving as a species, we meet different kind of situations, okay? And this situation develop the instinct, they develop a sort of framework that we have in our mind. And this framework are studied by was a psychologist, psychotherapist, and psychiatrist, and doctor. And he explained, he worked with the different patients, okay? And he realized that are very, very important to understand our psyche, how we behave, how we react to different situations. So now I'm going to give the word to Dr. Niloufar, that she's going to go deeper. You know, mine was...
Thank you. Regarding archetypes, it is important to mention that we cannot separate them from nations. It means that all these myths that we have are somehow more or less in common among all nations, all cultures. We cannot separate mythology from religions. We cannot separate it from cultural backgrounds. We cannot separate it from different nations. For example, I think that you are familiar with Noah and the Great Flood. Have you heard about it in religion? The huge flood is going to destroy all human beings on the earth, And Noah was responsible to create a ship and bring a pair of all different species into this ship to save the nature and environment and human beings. Okay, we have the same myth in India. Manu is the person who is informed by a fish that a huge flood will destroy the history of human being. And because of this person becomes responsible to create a huge ship to save human beings. There is another person in the myth of Gilgamesh that is responsible to create a ship and save human beings. It means that if we follow mythology, we will see that all human beings, as we are all the same. It doesn't matter where we live, but we are the same. It means that we think about deficiencies that we do not know about them, and because of this, we create our myths. And they are in common among nations. Okay? It shows that all human beings are the same. And when we want to know how myths are created, we will reach to the point that all myths are responses to the deficiencies that human beings experience facing disasters, unknown topics in the nature, and lack of knowledge. Okay? Because of this, they create these myths. And because of this, they are not separable from human beings. It's a part of us. Because all human beings at the level of, I can say, creativity and knowledge that we are, or in the ancient time all were, create myths.
That's very important to remember. So myths were the first psychologies, okay? And so that's why it's important to study them. It's why important to study the stories. Logically, there is this template is always, we have different templates, not just one, different templates. Logically, they change a bit according to culture, but if you go deep, the structure, the framework that is there is very similar to different, it's similar in different cultures. And here I have a list of possible templates, no? I mean, what Jung and then other psychiatrists and other psychologists gave us. For example, Jean Bolan, she's a US psychiatrist and psychologist. So we have the innocent, for example, he looks for happiness and is optimistic and pure. And then we have the explorer, you know, it's independent, you know, freedom, adventure. We have the sage, so truth and wisdom, the hero. Okay, then she's going to speak about more about the hero, I think, you know. Yeah. When we have the rebel, you know how our teenagers, right? You know, revolution, rebellion, a bit radical, and then the jester. Okay, it's fun, joy, playful, it's very funny, and caregiver. You know, our nurses. You know, our angels are nurses, and you know, service and service to the others, and the ruler, for example, and Dr. Niloufar, she's going to speak about the ruler and Zeus, I think, you know, and then, you know, so we, from service to compassion to control and rule, and then we have also everyone man, you know, and then we have the creator, as well as she mentioned the creator. So these are, you know, kind of framework that we find in each culture and in different myths. So maybe we can speak about a bit about the hero, if you wish. Or
yeah, of course. The concept of hero or this archetype also exists in all nations. Among all of us, it is significant. If we go back to the history, I can say one of the oldest carved texts that has been found during the history of human being is Gilgamesh. In Gilgamesh, we see that again, Gilgamesh as a ruler, brutal ruler, tries to face all the challenges in the world. He is very brutal, savage, bad behaving to all human beings, but facing another brutal person named Enkidu, he starts a journey and starts to find himself, starts to face challenges in the nature, and starts to find a good reply to the reason or the reason that a human being can be eternal. Throughout this journey with this brutal person, they start to know themselves. And it means that they start to transform into a better human being. Okay? This is one of the challenges that we can see. Or in the Persian mythology, we have Rostam. Rostam is a warrior who is responsible to defend the king and the country. This is the mission of all warriors at that time. To save Iran, the country that he's coming from, in this myth, he faces 7 challenges, 7 mortal challenges that is referred to as 7 labors. And throughout these stages, Rostam knows himself better, and he becomes a better warrior. Okay? In that way, we see that he reaches to a kind of self-confidence, being a good person or better person for the country and king. We have many of these heroes that I can say. There is another one, Arjuna, in the Indian mythology. He is one of the 5 brothers that, as a warrior, starts to be a better person facing challenges in the nature again. Throughout the time, all these rulers or these heroes, I can say, change. As we can see in the modern literature, we can face other heroes in, for example, Hollywood movies. One of them that I remember now is the person in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's true.
Or the other one in the Hunger Game, if I'm not mistaken, with the movie. The format of the hero changes, but we see that the basic elements are still the same. It means that a hero faces challenges to become a better person, to be more successful.
That's very interesting. And yeah, so the framework stays the same, but the culture change, you know, over time. We change over time, and the culture change, and the hero can become something different. And it's very interesting. Also, for example, the creator. You know, imagine the creator in the past. You know, was somebody who could create tables and chairs, and now the creator is a scientist, or you know. Also, a scientist can be, you know, a person is, you know, the adventurer. You know, just not, you don't go explore, you know, geographically new places. You explore something new in, you know, your mind, a new concept, new ideas. And again, the ruler, we can say, you know, the ruler in the past, we imagine a king. Now it's not a king anymore. Maybe a CEO can be a ruler in a sense, no? So, you know, changes in the business. So, the frameworks are the same, but the changes according to times. And that's why it's so important to have this myth and this literature, for example, also in schools, because, you know, children have to understand, what does it mean? What do I want to be? Do I want to be a ruler? What is my you know, archetypes? Who am I? Also in our, you know, in our life, when we are in a difficult situation, we have to say, we stop 1 second. Okay, we can do it differently, but this is a good framework to think about archetypes. Which archetype is emerging in this moment? Is it really mine? Is what I want to be, or I want to be something different? And, you know, you act the way which you want to be. Acting the way which you want to be, you transform your balance internally, and you become a different person. This is from a psychological point of view, and it's something that I think is important to say.
Another hero that I want to refer to is Odysseus. In the myth Odyssey, that comes from the rich Greek culture. This king, after being in the battle, Trojan battle for 10 years, tries to come back to his home. And after 10 years, facing different challenges, he reaches to his land and sees that all people there, rich people or other soldiers, thinking that he's dead, start to ask for the hand of his wife, Penelope. Okay, he comes again he faces another kind of conflict there. Okay? External and now internal. How he should defeat these people, how he should, I can say, prove himself to convince Penelope to come to him after 20 years. Okay? And we see that he becomes successful again, and it shows that when you want to be a hero, you will face these challenges, but a successful hero is the person who overcomes all these difficulties and challenges.
And it changes over time. And yeah. I think this is a very interesting case because he was also a bit of a joker, no? Yeah. A jester there, no? Was always, you know, a bit canny. And so that means that we have more than one archetypes in ourselves. And sometimes when we have conflict, because there is not an harmonious, you know, balance between the archetypes. Sometimes we are too much the innocent, you know, and maybe we can see this in dreams. And you know, Jung would say that dreams are very important because they are the door of a part of ourselves that is our personal unconscious. Because for Jung there were two kinds of unconscious. So now that we have been speaking about archetypes, I can introduce this concept, which is collective unconscious. So all these archetypes are part of the collective unconscious that, again, it seems a fluffy concept, but it's not a fluffy concept because as we evolved, you know, we have a genetic makeup, but we have also experiences, you know, as human beings, we have experiences, we have to face them. And so these experiences are sort of, I don't know if you have done philosophy, a framework, a Kantian framework, with which we see the world. And I find this very interesting. And we can speak also about maybe other important myth. For example, I really would like to speak about, you know, for example, all these females, very females, you know, archetypes that come from the Greek tradition, for example, Hera, Athena, all these female archetypes, which, you know, I think they are important for us because, you know, for example, I really loved Artemis, which was the sister of Apollo, and Artemis was a very independent, woman, and you know, she was there hunting, you know, she was there hunting and you know, hunting, and it was very independent. But on the other hand, she had a shadow. The shadow is that when you are very, very much independent, you know, you don't let anybody in. So that's you know, when we are young, sometimes we want independence, but we have to understand that something has, you know, we have to let in the advice of other people. And that's very interesting. And these archetypes change over time in our life. So, for example, at the beginning, we can be, you know, a bit of, you know, like Artemis. You know, we are independent. We don't want everything. We want to be wild. She was, you know, hunting in the forest. They wanted to be wild. We don't want any interference. And then when we grow up, maybe sometimes some of us become Hera, you know, or become Demetrius, want a family, want, you know, they are maternal or paternal, they want to, you know, to grow something. And then when we become older, sometimes we become a bit more Hestia, which is another Greek archetype, which means we let grow what is inside us. We protect the fire that is inside us. We protect the intimacy. We are there to protect what is our soul. And you know, and when we pass through the stages of our life, because our life we develop. Development psychology is not just for children. It goes, development psychologists go from when you're a child to when you're old. You know, we changes, and you know, these archetypes tell us, yes, everybody went through different changes in their lives.
Yes, exactly. The issue is that if we refer back to any one of these gods and goddesses, for example, related to Greek mythology, we will see that they were also changing. It means that it is not strange that human beings change, and sometimes there are more Artemis, sometimes there are more Hera, sometimes there are more Apollo. It means that throughout the years, everybody changes. According to the challenges that we face, we may change. And this is important. And when we consider any one of these gods or goddesses, we will see that they had also a kind of humanistic aspect. And they had a kind of, I can say, emotional aspect. They were also different. And on the other hand, we can see that they also had deficiencies like all human beings. Their natures were not pure. They were not 100%. They had also their shadows, as we discussed last session. It means that it is natural to face human beings moving between all these mythical gods and goddesses throughout the ages.
Yeah, that's true. So when we understand that maybe what is the strong archetypes in us, we understand also the shadow. So as a woman, I refer more to female archetypes. So, you know, Demetra or, you know, Persephone's or, you know, Hera. Hera, for example, was extremely jealous, okay? Or Athena. Athena, you know, is a businesswoman. You know, Athena is the archetype of a businesswoman. We have business women, okay? They are goal-directed. They want to achieve what they want to achieve, but maybe they have problem with, you know, intimacy. You know, they don't let anybody in because they are focused. So, what am I now? What is my problem? And sometimes the problem is that, you know, especially for us women, you know, maybe we want to be a business, you know, woman, or we want to have really, you know, goal directing in our jobs life, but we have also Demetra that, or we have Hera, and these are conflicting archetypes. So when we tell stories like that, you know, we understand that it's not just what happened to us, but it's what happened during the history. So it says, yeah, it's true to make them work together, but we have to try, and it's interesting, no?
Yes, exactly. And the important thing is that, as you mentioned, this unconscious part of human beings or psyche is universal. As we mentioned in all these myths that now we discussed, you see that they are in common between nations, among different people. It means that this universality is also very important.
Yeah, yeah, that's very important. One of the myths that is, I find it very interesting, is the myth of Hephaestus, or you know, Vulcano in, you know, as a Vulcan, as we say in Roman mythology. So practically, and this is the myth of how we will overcome trauma, because trauma is something very challenging. In this case, was trauma. So Hera didn't want him because it was not perfect like the other, you know, gods or goddesses, and it says, okay. He threw him away from the sky of Olympus, and you know, he went down, down, down. It was not perfect. And what he did, he became, you know, somebody that with his hands made, you know, magic things. He could build everything. And he was so smart that at the end, he built a throne for Hera, okay? He built a throne for Hera, and he says, if you don't admit me again in the Olympus, you know, the throne is going to chain you forever. So if you want to be free, it was a particular kind of throne, you know, you have to admit me, and I'll have the key to, you know, to liberate you from the throne that I created for you. And that means that, yes, we can face challenges. People can treat it like really, really badly, okay? But we are also Hephaestus. Hephaestus is in us. So we have to find from the pain, from the challenge that is there, the strength to start again, be smart enough, because there will be challenges. People are people. That's what myths are telling us. Because these gods and goddesses were like us. You know, they were not perfect. They have lots of flaws. People are people. Also, your mother can treat you really badly, but you know, you are Hephaestus in yourself, so you can change and become, you know, your pain can become your strength. And you know, you can trick Hera. I think it's a fantastic myth.
Another myth that can be discussed in psychology is referred to as Oedipus complex.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, probably you can discuss it better, but Oedipus complex refers to the situation of a boy in a family that feels united with his mom. But after the mirror stage, that the child understands that there is another person in the mirror, literally, he understands that the mom is another person, being in a good relationship with his dad. And in that way, now the son understands that there is a rival here, dad. And this Oedipus complex, I do not want to go to the details, but sometimes we see that some men are suffering from the relationships with the fathers. Probably it goes back to this issue, that basically they consider the fathers as rivals, and this person, the rival, separates this son from his love, who is his mom. And the opposite is electro complex. That is the situation of a girl that finds, understands the love between the parents and becomes a rival for her mom, because she knows that her dad satisfies his mom sexually, I can say, and in that way starts to be jealous, or I don't know, behaves badly to her mom. And probably if this person remains like this and grows up and doesn't find another man for himself, this electro complex becomes a very serious problem in the future.
Yeah. So you see, myth tell us, you know, explain.
Sorry, I tried to simplify it.
It was
to go
fantastic.
To the details.
No, it was really fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us, you know, what's going on in our psyche. You know, when we study them, we understand what's going on. So I'm not the first person. It happens. So, you know, it's like, you know, you learn from the experience of the other people, not just of your family or your friends or your relatives. You learn from the experience of centuries. I mean, that's fantastic. You know, you are really on the shoulder of other people, of giants. And your life, you know, if you study this, your life is easier. Because as we know, you know, and you are here to study at BSBI, you know, in business, in other faculty, not just in psychology, we say that, you know, we have to be emotionally sound. If we are not emotionally strong, we cannot be good leaders. We cannot be, you know, CEOs. We cannot build our company, because we have to understand, we have to, you know, rule our emotional sense, but also to understand them and to liberate them. And if you don't know these things, it's difficult to learn everything on your own in one life. You have the possibility, you know, to grasp what other people have done. And not just that, this is also cultural intelligence that you have here, because it's, the myths are different and they change according to the society, although the structure is the same, no? And exactly. I think it's very interesting, this.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, and so I would like to say something that, you know, we speak about myths, we spoke about psychology, we speak about films, you know. I don't know, I mean, I like Star Trek. I mean, I confess this, you know, you can find all these myths in Star Trek or Star Wars. I like science fiction, or who likes fantasies, so you can explore them. But they are used in marketing. That's very interesting, you know. If you do marketing, they say, okay, we are made of stories, right? We are made of stories. So when you have a brand, you have to have good stories as well, and have here a bit of kind of brands and possible archetypes. And maybe when you go home, you just try to understand, is that true, is not true, you know, so research the brands and see the archetypes. So we have, for example, hero, I have written here Nike, how you pronounce. The Sage, National Geographic. Caregiver, for example, they think about Dove or Johnson & Johnson, all this kind of product. Creators, for example, is Lego, not for kids. And, you know, Lover is Chanel, Victoria's Secret. Ruler is Rolex, Mercedes. Magician is Disney. Rebel is Diesel, for example. Every man, every woman is Kia. So, and actually, you know, when they think about the brand, as these myths, these stories are so important for us. They are inside of us. They say, okay, let's use Jungian psychology that is not so fluffy at the end. you know, and make the brand very, very strong, because in this way, you know, I can feel, you know, more attracted to something. Why? Why as a consumer? Why as a person I want to buy this particular product? Why I want to go with this particular brand? And I think it's very important that we know that.
Exactly. It means that we reach to the point that we find mythology related to different majors, specifically psychology, and you see that psychology is related to many other majors like branding and business issues.
Yeah, it's very important, and it's very important, you know, just from you know, a practical perspective for you that you are studying business, also for a psychological perspective. Yeah, for example, when I work as a CBT therapist, you say you are a CBT therapist, you use Jungian archetypes. Yes, I use Jungian archetypes. Why not? Why not? Because stories sometimes can grasp more than, you know, simple exercise, simple, you know, also more complex exercise. Story grasp, and you know, we are made of story. We think through stories. So sometimes it's very interesting to work with stories as well. So maybe, you know, let's imagine that, you know, you know, what is your mythology? What, you know, you can ask to somebody, what is your mythology? For example, for a while I was, you know, you can say I was depressed, but you can say I was with Hede, you know, the gods of, you know, the underworld. And then I came out as a hero. And as a hero, I've done this, that, and that. I've overcome all my obstacles, because the hero for usually is Spider-Man, and it's also the scientist, but it's also myself. You know, hero is me, that I face challenges, because life sometimes is easy, sometimes it's complex, it throws us things. So if you think about your own mythologies, because mythologies are not up there in the, you know, in the Platonic world, mythologies are inside of us. We are our mythologies.
Exactly, exactly. All these deficiencies that we can find in mythology or in the mythic part of ourselves, all the shadows that we can find and recognize in ourselves should lead to innovation and improvement. And the way, but we should work on it to know it. Otherwise, we do not know anything. It means that knowing the mythological part of ourselves helps us to improve, to go for innovation and creativity.
Yes, I think this is a very important, you know, point. Because it helps us to know ourselves, and you know, as Socrates says, if you don't know yourself, you are nothing. You know, you are nothing. Because, and sometimes in this society as well, that you know, gives us lots of inputs, which is interesting. But you have to know, you know, do I want to follow each input? Who I am now, who I want to become. I want to become Athena, which is very much logic, you know. I want to become a businesswoman, or I want to become more Artemis, which is wild but helps, you know. Artemis helped, for example, the mother to deliver her twin, which was Apollo, no? Do I want to become this kind of person? But if I become this kind of person, what is my shadow? Okay, what is, you know, the thing that you have to pay attention of, you know, because if I help everybody, what is me, you know? So if you know about logic, you know that, you know, you cannot be so cold. You have to let the feelings come in. If you want to be independent, you know what you already know what is the shadow. You know already what are the dangers, because these stories will tell you the dangers.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So,
what do you think about it?
Do you have questions?
Dear audience.
Do you have questions? No questions.
We can ask questions.
Do you want us to ask questions? Fine.
You know that we are lecturers. Anyways, we have always questions in our pockets. Yeah, please, you can.
No, but maybe for the girls, yeah, we can go with the myth of Persephone. You know the myth of Persephone. She was the daughter of Demetrius. And the Demeters is, the one who gives us the wheat, the food, makes our heart grow and everything else. And then come Aries, so Mars, as we say, and she says, okay, you come with me and bring them in the underworld. And when she's there, and so the Demeter becomes very, very angry, and everything becomes winter, And then, Demeter speaks with the ruler, Zeus, and says, okay, I want my daughter to come back. I want my daughter to come back. And so but she cannot come back because she already tasted what was in the underworld. So, which means, and she's the queen of the underworld. So it means that, in our life, sometimes we are very innocent at the beginning, okay? But, inside of us, there is also the strength to be the queen of the underworld for women, which is something, sometimes is difficult. But we, as Persephone has done it, we can have both things. We can be innocent and bring spring and love, but we can be also the queen of the underworld. So understand that, okay, what is, inside of us, the deep things. You don't have any other questions on?
I have a question.
Very good. Thank you, Sergio.
Thank you very much for the speech. Super interesting. I want to make a question from a very pragmatic point of view, and it's from these archetypes. And now in these times that actually through digital technologies, we can, let's say, we can segmentate population or clusterize population in such small groups. If is those kind of archetypes related to Greek gods or all the examples that you have given are still valid? Or right now, or the tendency is to clusterize people in a more individual way. Let's say that the old archetypes related to gods are being diluted to have a more personal point of view.
From a branding perspective.
From a branding perspective, of course. Or marketing strategy or something to.
For what I know, the main brands, also in marketing, especially in digital marketing. Now they say if you want to succeed in digital marketing, you have really to use these archetypes because it's so fragmented that you have to reach something that is very important for the person. And actually, you don't know. It's like when you fall in love, this man or this woman, you just fall in love and you don't know what's, because the archetypes is there. You are not there anymore. It's the part of you that you want it to emerge and it doesn't emerge, and you just totally get lost. And this is what they try to do, the branding, because it's so fragmented. We have so many, they say, if you build a story with an archetypes that you think, can attract this kind of population, first of all, you have to know your target. And then when you know your target, you have to build these archetypes. And, you will bring the people in. Like, for example, Patagonia. Patagonia has the archetypes of, of the rebels, in a sense, And so, and they give us, so the students, I think they should, when they start thinking about their brand, they should think about also, what kind of story do I want here? What is the story that I'm telling them? And, it should be really, a whole story there in your mind. So you don't change according with, you don't follow the river, you follow what is your story, and people who are attracted to that will follow. So that's why, you see a brand, yeah, I want to be that kind of.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted a follow-up kind of question to yours. So I was wondering, more from the psychological point of view, so you have so many archetypes in Jung, so they're still valid, right? Or there are still maybe variations that are created, or there are so many that, again, if you have different combinations of them, you can actually, let's say, individualize everybody. Or it's dynamic, how does it work?
there are kind of 12 archetypes, not more than 12 archetypes. Okay, and actually the idea is that the self, the ego, is something that came up really in the last period of our evolution. Before we had all this kind of people sort of coming out. So this is the idea, okay? So when you have, for example, a schizophrenic or other people, maybe, it's not there, okay? So we have all these voices, okay? And the problem is sometimes, one of them must be, if we want to be in balance, must be the leader for our life. But we cannot have just one archetype. Like in the same of Odysseus. Odysseus, yeah, was a hero, but was also a joker. Just you couldn't trust Odysseus, because he was, And in one of us, there is always one that's leading, and these leading archetypes, and then we have others that we use in different situations. But there is one who is leading, and they see that we have a self, or depends on what kind of psychology you use the word self or ego. Depends what kind of psychological kind of, some say brand you come from, but this is a new thing. And, and sometimes when we are really, we had trauma, we came from difficult situation in life, we are fragmented because there is not just one that, is leading us. And then they are changing, the example that I gave, about women, that, sometimes we are Artemis when we are younger, then we can become Hera, Demeter, and then, we are, then we can become Hestia, which is the archetypes of the house, of the intimacy and everything else, and become the sage. And this period in which the archetypes is changing, they are more difficult for us because it has to become a leading one. And it's a way of explaining our psyche. There are different other ways, but it's also a good way to explain things when you have people in front of you that are not well. You can use that, you can use different ways, but when you speak about stories, everybody understands stories, especially if you're not well. And it's also very important to do your own myth, to do your own mythology. So before I was that, and now I'm changing to that, and it's like bringing up the traits that are very important for you in that moment. And, have here, for example, a list of traits. If it's Athena, is logic, and Artemis is more freedom. Hestia is health. That's why it's in old age, and all these kind of traits. What traits are very important for me now in this situation? What I can bring out, and when they are conflicting, it's kind of dangerous. You want to say something?
I do agree totally. Yeah, that's it.
Maybe you can answer.
Thank you very much. Is it working? Yeah. So thank you very much. Very interesting conversation. I have a question about collective unconsciousness. Yeah, you said that. So it's like some kind of aspects of some community, yeah, of group of people, of their lives that is there, like unconscious aspects that influences our decisions, but we are not aware of that. Yeah, so there might be some kind of trauma, like the Second World War or certain events. So it's very interesting. So we don't know, but this is very important in our lives. Yeah. So how could this collective unconsciousness be influenced by archetypes? What could be?
Sorry, would you please repeat?
How could collective unconsciousness be determined by the archetypes? Or how could it be influenced or determined, how it's related to archetypes that you were talking about?
Collective unconscious is the part that Jung defines. It is different from unconscious part. He defines conscious and unconscious part of psyche, but this collective unconsciousness is the one that is in common between all people, all around the world, okay? It means that all human beings, as I have brought different myths that for example, regarding this Noah and the Great Flood. People, for example, in Japan thought about it as people in India thought about it, as we see in the Middle East, Noah thought about it. It means that during different periods of time, people think about the same concepts. Why? Because all human beings are the same. You cannot separate different nations. Probably we are a little bit different. Or people from the same nation, from the same society, or smaller societies, like families. People are different. A family having many children, you see that every child is different from the other one. Why? Because it goes back to the unconscious parts that you do not know how they are influenced by the society. Okay? But more or less, we see that all people, all human beings as one species is the same all around the world. Okay? And these archetypes, existing archetypes, helps psychologists to go through the deeper part of human beings to understand cliche keys that they can find to start the treatment, or help them to sometimes to recover them, as I explained, for example, the Oedipus complex, or help them to change for another myth to be a little bit more successful, or go for improvement, or become an innovative person.
Yes, I think it's a perfect explanation. It's like if you want to speak about metaphors, okay, we have the genetic, you know, the genes, you know, are the genes of human beings. But each of us is a bit different. Nobody is the same, you know. It's so they are there, these archetypes, and you know, logically, as humanity change, they might change a bit, you know, they might evolve a bit, but the framework is still the same. So you know, the adventurer now is a scientist. The ruler is not the king, but they can be a ruler of, you know, a big, you know, company. But they are still the same, because our psyche, it's the same but different. You know, like we are all human beings, but each of us is different.
Yeah. Thank you.
There are no more questions, so we should start asking them.
Yes, please. You can ask. I will choose. You will ask.
No, I don't know if it's everything is clear, or do you want you know? So I think it's just oh, I have a question there.
My name is Michael. From what he asked, I don't think the explanation does quite a bit justice for me. I think from what he's trying to ask is, there are the archetypes, but then also there are different experiences and trauma that everyone goes through that affect their decisions in the future. So how does this trauma decide your archetype, or different behaviors or experiences that you go through determines your archetype?
So practically, that each of us has different experience, no? But you say this contradicts with the idea that there are different archetypes, yeah? But if you think about the myth of Hephaestus, okay, he was thrown out from his mother from the Olympus out, and you know, it fell from the sky down, 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 and it was nothing. And then he started with this pain, he started, you know, building stuff, a throne and everything else. This is a sort of very general stories, you know, and you know, this is a kind of, you know, very general story. It's a story of pain, okay, and you know, this is, you know, can be, we speak about pain, but we can speak about something, happiness, and everybody had, you know, delusions, you know, had something that happens in their life and made them sad, okay? It can be, you know, something related to mother, it can be you are fired, or you are, you know, or something happened in school, you are bullied, or, you know, there is mobbing, you know, life now is different, you know, you don't fall from the sky down to the earth, literally. But you know, you're very happy. Maybe you go to school, you're a kid, you go to school and you're mobbed, you're bullied. Or now there is cyberbullying. You know, you use internet, you're so happy. Ah, yeah, there's internet. I can meet friends here, I can meet friends there, and then they start cyberbullying you. You know, and you know, this is an experience that gave us pain. No, it's something that you know, we suffer a lot, and we can go down. We can. Some people that were cyberbullied kill themselves. You know, but you know, the myth is telling you he was thrown away from his mother, and he was in the sky, so in a happy place. When we say up, we're happy, in a happy place. He went down, down, down. It was very, very sad, but he didn't kill himself. He was strong enough for this pain, and he became, you know, a maker. He started making things, and he tricked the people, you know. And from out group, if you want to speak about using social psychology, from out group, he became in group again, because he was so smart that his pain became his strength. So this is a kind of, it's a general framework that is telling you, you know, somebody is going to make you suffer, because this is life. We are human beings. People are people. Somebody is going to make you suffer. But this suffer is something that you have to use to become strong. In fact, when we become therapists, the first thing is that, okay, what, you suffer for eating disorder? Okay, you're going to treat people with eating disorder probably, because you know the pain. But this pain has to make you strong as a therapist. Oh, you are bullied, you're going to work with people that are bullied. You have somebody who has got schizophrenia in your house. It's better that you work with people with schizophrenia, because the pain that you suffered make you strong. And from this, creation can. So, you know, the experiences are differences, but it's, this one is an experience of pain. From this experience of pain, you can have something different. You can become a creator. That's what the myth is telling you.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great question.
Yeah, nice.
Do you have other questions or?
No questions. Okay, you can finish.
Okay, so if there are no questions.
You have a question?
No.
Okay. Yes, please.
If there are no other questions, we finish here. I would like to thank Dr. Niloufar, and you know, all the mythologies that she was telling us was very interesting.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was from different kind of the world, and thank you for you being here. Thank you again, and see you next time.
Thank you.